Morning, folks. Dragon back with you. Listen, I'm going to address something today. I think you guys know my email, Dragon Speaks for You, the number 4 and the letter U at gmail.com. My videos are on YouTube at Dragon Speaks for You. I got to address something today. You know, I get all this word that about who I am and what I'm doing and if I'm fake or if I'm real or how I do this, how I do that. It's just all these questions. And it's coming from the dark side. It's coming from people uh, living in fear. That's what we're going to name this video. Stop living in fear. Okay. Uh, Bear with me and I'll explain to you. Okay. And I don't do this to defend myself. I don't find the need to defend myself. Okay. First of all, I don't find the need to defend myself. There's nothing I need to defend. Okay. Uh, so the thing about me is people wonder, there's people that wonder that, how do I live it? How do I live free? They look at me, I guess they see, I live free, and, they want to know how do I do that? How does he live free like that? How he's got freedom. I can see it all over him. He's got freedom. Well, that's true. I do. I live in freedom. And it took me a lot of years to get to that point, to live in freedom from all kinds of things. I still have to obey certain rules, you know what I mean? Uh, but I'm not going to take control. I don't care if I don't care if I'm imprisoned. I don't care where I'm at. I don't care, in what situation. I'm still going to be free. My freedom is within me. Okay. And they don't like the fact, a lot of them, uh, religion, let's say religious people. All right. I don't even like that word, but, the religious people sector, uh, you know, don't like the fact that I live in freedom and I speak, and what I speak and say about Jesus and this and that is blasphemy or this or that. Look, I want to tell you something. I was raised Catholic, okay? I was raised from the time I could remember, all right? My family, everybody was totally, there were fanatics, religious fanatics in my family and all this about religion and Jesus and God and all this. And, you know, a lot of the Spanish people are in depth about it, and most of them are Catholic. So I was raised in Catholic. I was in a Catholic school. The one thing I can say is they teach you well, I guarantee you. By the time I got into junior high and all that, I already knew what they were teaching me because I learned it all from the first grade to the 8th grade. And they're pretty intense. It's like a boot camp, to tell you the truth. It was when I went. So anyway, um, I was an altar boy, believe it or not. Uh, I went up in the ranks. I enjoyed it. I did it. I mean, that's what I thought. That's how I was raised. That's all I knew. My grandmother was the house mother for the Franciscan priests. There was 10 to 15 of them, right there. She lived there. She had a house attached to the uh, uh, um, monastery there. And, the nuns lived in a separate house or in a convent, they call it. And so I'd eat, breakfast, lunch, and dinner with them. So we had a lot of discussions. You understand? Uh, so I got a lot of in-depth teachings. So, but the one thing, and I'll tell you, that I didn't like, and I didn't realize this till I got a little older, I started getting these downloads, you know, because I've always been a free spirit, always. Uh, I fought at the drop of a hat. I had this rage in me. It came from my abuse in the family and this and yada yada. I made a video on that. But anyway, uh, I used to stay with my grandmother because it was easier for me to go to school. School was right there. So, you know, I'd stay with her. So I lived with her. And she was a fanatic, boy. You know, everything. You made one wrong move and God's going to crucify you. God's going to punish you. You know, te va a castigar Dios, you know, and I was, God's going to punish you, you know, for anything. He was used for control. The Lord was used for control. You understand? God was used for control. And after a while, I started getting these downloads, man, of you know, because I always thought for myself, and I started getting these downloads and these thoughts and these questions come in my head. And I was brought up and taught that the priest, the father, they were all called father, you know, father this, father that, and you know, I never questioned it. And I was taught, and everybody was taught that there, and that they were the hand of God on earth. So you know, I grew up with that. You know, that the priest, you know, was the hand of God on earth. That's what they teach you. So uh, to try to make a long story short, I doubt I could do it. I want to get some info in there so people understand kind of who I am, okay, what I come out of. And so anyway, meanwhile, I'm getting all kinds of abuse at home, okay? When I was at home and stuff, I seen a lot of stuff, and you know, but I had a lot of joy in me because my spirit was always free. It never consumed me, okay? And um, but these questions started coming into my head, and I started asking, you know, the one thing I hated was, you know, they pat you on the head. Oh, our brains are too small. Your brains are too small now, and you know, when you grow older, you'll understand. Or our brains are too small to understand the workings of God, and you know, that was their knee jerk answer for when they couldn't answer a question. Well, I took that for a while, and after a while, I started, you know, questioning. Well, if this is the hand of God on earth, then they should know all this stuff. They should know the answers to these questions. I'm just a kid, you know, and I, I mean, how difficult is a question coming from a kid, you know, to the hand of God on earth uh, to answer? And I mean, that started seething in me and seething in me. And after a while, it's just like by the time, you know, I graduated from the 8th grade there, and, you know, by that time, it was like I was tired of it, man. I couldn't understand, why can't these guys answer these questions, you know? And it really bothered me. And I never got an answer for that. And so I just kept on and going. And so when I graduated and got out of there, I went crazy, man. I went into public school, and so when I did, you got to understand, I started building my first car when I was 11 years old. Okay, I started building my first car. My dad got me my car from an old farmer's. You know, $125 for this car. It was, you know, up on stumps out in the middle of a field. You know what I mean? Old car. And, you know, I was excited. I was elated. You know, I was just a little boy. And he says, this is a car, you can, you know, work on this. And, you know, so I got on that religiously, you know, religiously. And I, you know, pulled motor, pulled transmission. I did everything. I built this car. So meanwhile, I'm going to public school. Well, I went straight to, you know, here's girlfriends and, you know, I mean, you know, the girls and stuff like that. That wasn't going on in the Catholic school. You know, you didn't have that kind of freedom. But now all of a sudden, I got girls, you know, just approaching me. I got women. Well, they were girls, but, you know, approaching me, and I just went off, man. Here I come into, you know, all of a sudden it just hit me, man. And I'm like, I went wild, you know. I went wild. Sex, drugs, rock and roll, you know, that whole bit, man. I went off, you know. And meanwhile, I'm building my car, you know. And by the time I was 15 years old, I finished my car. I put a V8 in it. It had a 6-cylinder, straight six. I put a V8 in it. I put a 4-speed transmission in it. I redid the interior. My mother helped me with that. I do that now for a living, but I probably where I got a lot of that talent. But she helped me with the upholstery. It was all black inside. I had, you know, at the time there was a light bar that beat to the music, you know, which was illegal, but I ran one anyway. And, you know, I built my car and I had chrome wheels and paint job. I painted it up real nice. And, you know, I did all this by the time I was 15. That's no lie. I did. So, uh, everything. I mean, I did everything on this and the upholstery in it, everything. So, um, by the time I was 15, I left home. You know, when I got my car finished, I left home. You know, by then I was already, you know, running wild, man. I was out there with crazy crowd, and you know, so time went on. Skipped a lot of. I'm going to skip a lot of it, but you know, give you an idea where I come from. But I was mad. You know, I was mad because at what could I say? Uh, at religion. You know what I mean? And I didn't. I didn't believe in it, you know, and I didn't turn my back on God. Now it's a whole different deal. I didn't turn my back on God. I turned my back on the preaching of God because they don't do that. They don't teach you the Bible. They only teach you what they want you to know. You know what I mean? They at that time they didn't teach you the Bible. It wasn't taught, and I learned I learned masses, high masses, low masses, funerals, weddings, and I learned everything in Latin. You know, everything was in Latin. So uh yeah, it was crazy. I got into it, you know. So I had a lot of teaching, and by the time I got out of there, like I said, I went wild, man, and you know, got into a lot of trouble and different trouble and stuff like that. And you know, I got into the drugs and all that stuff too. And, you know, back in the 60s and the 70s and went through all that stuff. And it was pretty heavy. Went through a lot of stuff. But anyway, a lot of details in there. But anyway, you know, there was always had a good heart. You know what I mean? I always had a heart that cared for, I don't know, it's hard to explain. I had this rage in me that came from my abuse and all that stuff. So I was nobody to mess with. I'd fight at the drop of a hat. Anybody, I'd fight, man. And you know, I had a lot of fights, and you know, because there was a lot of jealousies. There was a lot of things. You know, people, you know, talking smack. You know what I mean? And I just didn't put up with any of it. I never have. And but I always had a good heart for people that were good people. You know, and I could see that. I didn't like somebody being bullied. I didn't like that. I'd go jump the bullies. I didn't care if they were friends of mine or not. And to this day, I'm that way. You know, I don't care. I don't like innocent people being messed with like that, and you know, bullied and stuff. So or hurt like that. And then I, you know, but I've always been attacked. You know, I've always been attacked for it. I mean, it's a hard thing to grow up with, and I never thought about it. You know what I'm saying? It's a hard thing to grow up with to, you know, have people attack you for doing good things, you know, but I never really thought about it. I protected it. So, you know, by that time, I mean, before I even got to back up a little bit, before I even got my car done and everything, all that, this guy come in my life. I recognize this guy here, and that's the power of God that I named Dragon. Okay, because I didn't know what it was for a long time. So, but I knew I had it. And I mean, I had discernment, I had intuition, I had all kinds of things that I didn't understand. These powers I didn't understand, but I knew I had them. I just never spoke about it to anybody. I didn't think like that. I thought, well, you know, I'm, that's just, it just is, I guess. I don't know. I never really thought about it. If everybody had it or anything like that. But I always had these powers and I didn't know what it was. I knew it was a power of God. I always felt that. I always felt there was the Holy Spirit within me, you know, or the Spirit within me. But I didn't get, how could I say it? We weren't taught that in that particular religion, you know. So there was no in-depth teachings, okay? But I had a lot of info of my own that I received on my own, okay? So about the word, the Bible, and all that stuff, you know, and um, so you know, Dragon was the name I put on this. So I've had Dragon forever, you know, as as far as I could, you know, remember. I was a little boy, you know, so I finally named him or named it because I didn't know you can't. I don't know. You can't. As I got older, you couldn't. It attached to me the name Dragon. Okay, uh, people it'd pop up. People would say, "Man, you're like a dragon," you know, or this or that, and it somehow it got attached to me. I can't even remember all of it. It's just so long ago, but somehow it got attached to me. So I didn't proclaim it myself. That's just what I named this power. Okay, and so Dragon's been with me, you know, all my life. So anyway, uh, as I got older, I just took it on, you know. Everybody called me Dragon. Start calling a lot of people started calling me Dragon. Uh, I've been called a lot of names, you know. But anyway, um, I never walked in fear. Okay, I've never walked in fear, and I don't know what it is. I think maybe this is what I believe in retrospect, because I'm very analytical, so I analyze myself a lot. Self-analytical too, you know. So I believe this. This is what I think it is. Okay, because a lot of people ask me, you know, why, and I don't jump. I don't, you know, you can't come up and scare me. You know, I don't. It's just natural. I don't jump. I might twitch a little, but I react. You know, I don't jump in fear. You know what I mean? Uh, and you know, I've had a lot of people ask me, even my wife and stuff, ask, how come you don't jump? She'd jump at something out of TV, you know, come up and she'd jump and I'd just sit there and, you know, she'd ask me, how come nothing scares you? Well, it doesn't really, you know, so, but it's not like I don't have fear, you know what I mean? That's hard to explain. But anyway, I'm trying to get to the point here, you know, but I need to build you up so you got a little bit of in-depth knowledge of me so that maybe it'll make sense. I'm trying to answer these questions I keep getting, you know, throughout my life and even today. Uh, especially, it's more important today because there's a lot of people walking in fear, you know, and they don't know how to not walk in fear. And a lot don't even know they're walking in fear, but their actions will tell you that. So anyway, um, what I believe is since I received all this abuse at such a young age, little, I mean, as far as I can remember, I figure it was the abuse I started receiving it myself at probably 5, 6 years old, somewhere around there. Okay. Because, you know, I'd go jump in, you know, my father, he drank and I'd go jump in and, you know, keep him from arguing. And, you know, I mean, it went pretty bad. And, you know, I don't even want to get into details, but, you can imagine it got bad, hospitalization and stuff like that. It got bad. So, uh, quite frequent, you know, so, but I think in retrospect, that's where the lack of fear came from. Because, when I went to school, and somebody approached me, they'd cause a fight or they'd start a fight. I never went to start a fight. I never did that. And, uh, but they approached me and, out of whatever their reason, uh, go to fight. And I had no fear of it, and there's some were older, they were higher grades and stuff. I never had a fear of it, and, because I looked at it this way, I get, King Kong beats my ass. What are you going to do to me? You know what I mean? King Kong beats my ass and I take it, it, so I get beatings from King Kong. I mean, it's what do you think? As a small boy, you're looking at your dad, and you get, that's King Kong, man. So if you can take that, what are you going to do to me, this kid? You know what I mean? So I think that's what it was. And as I grew, it just developed, and I got no fear, man. So it's not that I don't have no fear to where it makes me stupid, and I jump into situations that, I've jumped into some pretty dark situations, faced death many times, but I've learned a lot of stuff. So I protect myself. You know what I mean? So since then, I mean, I went through a lot of stuff, and it was hard to break that. But I believe that had a lot to do with it. Okay, first of all, now as I said, I've never lost. I've never turned my back on God, my Creator, the Almighty, whatever you want to call it. People call it the universe, whatever you want to call it. I don't care, but it's bigger than I am. I know that, but I've never not had that. I've always known that. And there's something in me bigger than me, and it's with me all the time, and it's dragon. Okay. So in my view, okay, that's the name for it. Okay. I know it's the spirit of God, but it's, you can't go talking to everybody, you know, all my friends and in school and public school and everything. I was Spirit of God, Spirit of God, Spirit of God. I wasn't like that. I had stepped away from the preaching of that because of what I got that turned negative for me. So I didn't want to hear any of that. You know what I mean? I could teach people. You want to preach to me. I could teach you about it. You know what I mean? Don't come trying to talk to me about Jesus and God and all this. I can teach you about the prophets and you want to hear it in Latin? I could tell you in Latin. You know what I mean? So I didn't want to hear it. You know what I mean? So there came a time that skipping a whole bunch, but there came a time that I got in a little bit of trouble, and I got a different various types of trouble, but uh, there was a time that I did a little bit of time, and you know I put down this person, and it's I don't know, it was a crazy thing, but anyway, there's a program, okay, uh, and I'll tell you the first name of it. You probably know it, okay, and it's the first name is called Celebrate Blank Blank, okay, and it's probably a lot of you probably in it, and a lot of you probably know it. It's in a lot of the churches all over, even programs, private programs. Well, it was restricted to the prisons. It wasn't anywhere other than that. It was restricted to the prisons. Well, I met the president and the founder out of California, Saddleback. And I'll give you some more hints there. And I met the president and the state coordinator. Well, I said, I never believed in any of that stuff. These programs, AA, NA, all these things, man. I never believed in that. I was always been a free spirit. If I make it, I make it. If I don't, I don't. So anyway, there's that lack of fear again, So anyway, I went up to him and I checked it out, and I thought, man, this is awesome, But how come there's nothing like this on the outside? It helped people, and I've always been that way to want to help people. Like I said, I always had that spot in me, even in my dark walk. So I started doing a lot of in-depth studying on certain things, and I came to realize a lot of the things I was taught were lies. And I got mad. I was mad. Boy, I walked around mad for about 3 weeks. I got in so deep in all kinds of different books and this and that and Bibles and, different, different. I had 5 or 6 laid out in front of me, and that's what I was into, and just did a lot of studying on different things. Well, come to find out, I didn't need all that, but it did open my eyes to something, and that's that everything I was taught, there was a lot of lies in it, and it was a lot of control. And I got mad, because I got my own answers to the questions I was asking all them years back there. And but I seen this program, and I thought, well, how come this isn't on the outside out there, man? This is awesome. It'd help a lot of people. Well, like I said, I met the president and the state coordinator, and I talked to them, and they said, you know what? And I still have it to this day, by the way. You know what? He says, you can't, we can't take it out of the prison, but you can. And I said, really? He says, yeah. They said, yeah, you can do it. Do you have an idea of doing that? And I said, yeah, it'd be great. I'd love to do it. Well, they handed me the manual, and they handed me the booklets. They handed me the book. They handed me everything, the instruction, all of it. Okay. They handed me the whole program, and they said, here you go. Go do it. So I was elated. I thought, man, this is awesome. So I thought about it. And, I said, man, I'm going to start me a program. And once I made that decision, to actually do it in my heart, you understand? To do that, I started getting all this information downloaded to me, man, I even got the name, and everything, the logo, the whole bit, I got all of that. I drew the logo. I'm an artist, so I drew the logo, the whole bit. I still have it to this day. But anyway, so I went to start it. Well, I figured after the first year, I'm ready, man. I'm ready. I want to get this going. I figured I'd start immediately with it, but no, it didn't work out that way. I had to get my 501c3. I had to get articles and bylaws and all this stuff done. You know what I mean? I got through it and did all this and worked. And the second year, I thought, okay, I'm ready. No. The third year, no. The fourth year, no. It took me 8 years to finally have everything together, the program together, all the paperwork, everything. Now, I had in mind on taking parolees, opening a home for parolees to parole to, a program to parole to, a year-long program. It took a year to go through this program. So I did it, I did it. And I didn't have no help, I didn't have any help with it. Putting it all together and everything. I just got into it and I did it. So next thing you know, I'm working with the courts. I'm working with law enforcement. I'm working with parole and probation. I'm working with all the prisons. They'd open the doors for me, man. I'd go in, I'd walk right in, I'd put, whatever. I'd go into courts and take people right out from the courts instead of going to prison. I was an alternative to incarceration. So I'd saved a lot of people from prison. And it felt good, it felt good. And I, I, I thought it was, it fed me, it fed my spirit, it fed a good area of me. So anyway, I did this for 20 some years, a little over 20 years. And, my wife helped me. She was with me, and we ran this place, but I couldn't get no help. You can't get no help that'll stick. Some come in and they come in and go, and I couldn't get no money, no help, because the crowd I dealt with was hard crowd, man. It's not your typical crowd. And where I'm from, I was the only program. All the other, there was a few others. It was 28 days and stuff like that, detox things, but for what I was dealing with was long term. And I was dealing with, heavy, long-term prisoners, 11, 14 years, stuff like that, man. These guys are hardcore convicts, you know what I mean? And a lot of them. So I had like 10 to 15 at one time, you know what I mean? So it was rough. You had to know the games because they know every trick in the book, man. And I was pretty structured though, and there's curfews and rules and structure you had to follow, you know what I mean? Otherwise you violate and you go back to prison, you go do your time. So anyway, went through all that. All right. Came the time that I just got tired. It was too much anymore. And I told my wife, it's time for me and you. 20 some years. I said, I'm done. I'm done with it. This season's over. Yeah, I felt it. And it was hard pulling away from that because I didn't want to go against my commitment. You understand? Now, here we get to the point. Is this a fear? Okay. People today, a lot of people today, these Christians, all right, I left that religion. They say you can never leave. Well, I left because I wasn't going back into it for my reasons, and there's a lot of things that people aren't aware of, but anyway, the Christianity thing, there's another label, I went for it for a while, and I tried to get help from all these churches, and there was, you name them, all of them, the Baptists, the this, the Protestants, the this, the that, different churches. Tried to get help for this program. I'd get pats on the back, and how great a job I'm doing, everything, Worked with all the courts, the judges, everything. And couldn't get a dime out of them, They wanted me to conform. And some of them wanted, and I talked to the big guys in these churches, and they wanted, big churches now, not little churches, they're big churches. And they wanted my program, they wanted to know they wanted me to teach them and teach the program, and they wanted my program. I said, man, I've worked my butt off for this. I'm not going to give you my program. I'll give it to you, but it's going to go under my name, and the program's name and, my name. The name I named it, and the ministry I was doing, what I mean? It's going under that name, not yours. We put your name in it, but it's not going to be under it. And I said, I'll go teach it, but it's going to cost you. I worked my tail off for this program. It was sanctioned by the Capitol, everything. So no, they didn't want to do that. They couldn't, because they couldn't own it. I didn't get no help, you know what I mean? Monetarily. So my wife and I went through our savings twice, keeping the place open, and we worked our tail off, But anyway, came the time I said, that's enough, I'm bleeding. I had to go get extra jobs and stuff to make money to keep things up, because our crowd didn't tithe, they didn't give money, So I couldn't even keep the lights on for what I got, And then I had other churches bringing pastors. Pastors would show up in the middle of, any teachings and stuff like that. They'd show up and sneaking people away from us and taking it to their church. You know what I mean? Taking them to their church. Next thing I know, they're over there. That's whatever. If you're going to do that, if you're going to leave, then you leave. But anyway, I had a lot going against me. So anyway, I got done with it, and came to the point where I wanted out, and I needed to get out. And my wife kind of freaked out a little bit and said, "Why? What are we going to do?" And I said, "Don't worry about it. I'll take care of it. Don't worry about it. Because it was providing for us in a way, not a big old way. People thought I was rich. Are you kidding me? If I stopped this, and I'd have money. So it wasn't like that. All of it went in, man. I had bills up the yang. Uh, had a big building. So anyway, couldn't get no help. So anyway, I said, that's it. So not wanting to do it, I got to tell you, there was a fear, because I thought, well, if I go against my word that I gave the Almighty, and I believe this, I believe this in my commitment, and I believe this Almighty thing, let's say, this Almighty and Jesus the Christ and all of this, and that's my belief, then I feel like I'm going against it, then there's going to be retribution. You know what I'm saying? So there's a fear. And I thought, so I actually, I prayed on it, man. I prayed and I prayed on it, for about 3 months before I did it. And it was heavy because it was hard to pull away from that. So I learned something in that, because of my free spirit, it was battling that. Okay. Because it's like, come on, man, it can't be that, And I came to the realization that I was going with the dogma that I've been taught. And that is the imprisonment. That is the control. And I thought, wow, I just got to do this, you know what I mean? And so I must have got that answer, you understand, from my higher power, because the answer came. And so I felt good about it. So anyway, I come out of it. I started a different thing, fired up my business again, and did a different deal in order for us to provide for me to provide for my family, for me and my wife, So it went well, things went well, and I don't stop. I make sure I get things done. My wife never hurt for anything. We always had money. I make sure of it somehow, and I always make sure of it. And I took care of her, and that was my drive. You know what I mean? That was my drive. She's my drive. You know what I mean? So I used that. Not that I couldn't do it alone. It's just that that love drives you. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, back to the point is that people quit walking in fear. Look, the realization of Christ, the realization of Jesus, okay? And I'll probably get some mail for this, but, some hate mail or something probably. But I don't care, This is a fact. And the realization of Jesus, he died in order for the Holy Spirit to come and feed us, okay? And this is what the Bible says. I don't care what the preachers and the priests and everybody says. I don't care if they agree or not. That's not the point. It's what I know, what the Bible says. Okay. And what it has shown me. So I have a spirit of no fear, sound mind, and Power, okay? Sound mind, no fear, and power, or power, no fear, and sound mind, however you want to put it. That's what I have, okay? I have that power, and I have to believe in that. If I believe in that, okay, either I do or I don't. Now, he said, "You filled with the Holy Spirit, I will live within you if you accept me." Well, I did that. I accepted him. Yes, you're my Lord and Savior. Okay, that's it. And I get the keys to the kingdom. Now I can experience all the powers of the kingdom that are within the kingdom. I've gone through the door, which is Jesus Christ. Jesus the Christ. He says, I'm the door. You go through me. I'm the way, the truth, and the life. Okay, I got that. So I got the way. I speak the truth. People don't like that. A lot of people don't like that. I'm hated for that. I'm hated for speaking the truth. But it's all demonic. And I don't care because I have no fear. So you want to attack me, you know? I'd rather you come in my face, try to come in my face and attack me, you know? But no, they won't do that because it's a cowardly power, you know what I'm saying? It hides. It'll hide behind a tree and throw rocks at you. It'll hide behind a tree and shoot at you. It'll come up behind your back and stab you. It don't come up to your face and confront you. You understand? This is why people, you need to be aware of your surroundings. You need to be aware of what's going on. You need to be aware of who's in your life. You need to be aware of who is around the people in your life and what is going on with your children, the closest to you. I mean, everybody. You have to be aware so that you can see it. And that way you'll know how to react. Okay? Because it's going to be sneaky. You're not going to, it's very conniving. It's very conniving, very methodical, very conniving, very intricate sometimes. It'll get very intricate depending on how strong you are. Well, with me, I'm pretty strong-minded, so it gets pretty intricate. I've gone through some things, people. I got stories I could write books on, man. And I'm telling, as a matter of fact, I am writing one. But it gets very intricate, so you have to be aware. You understand? And this is why a lot of people walk. I believe a lot of people walk in fear. Well, don't walk in fear. It's just I don't understand. What are you afraid of? You're afraid you're going to die. If you or you're going to be punished. You know what I mean? God's not going to punish you. You understand me? Everybody blames God. You know, everybody blames the Almighty. Everybody blames, they don't pray to him or anything. There's a lot of people that don't pray to God or they don't nothing. They don't, you know, they go to church, but do they really believe? You understand? I used to have this saying, that I picked up. You know, I had pay some of the guys. I get a lot of biker friends and stuff. I pay some of the guys put on masks and stuff and come in with their AKs and their guns into the church, or while we're having a meeting or whatever, and tell everybody, okay, everybody that wants to live, deny your faith, and you can leave. And I guarantee you, 3/4 of the people will probably storm out the door, and then have them, the people that stay, have them take off their masks, put their guns down, and sit down and say, okay, we just wanted to be with true believers. I think that would be awesome. That way you know who's truly there. But I guarantee you, you're going to have 3/4 of them leave the church. I'll tell you that. Would you take a bullet for your belief? You say you believe in Jesus. You say you believe in God. Would you take a bullet? If that gun was put to your head and that hammer pulled back, and so you deny the faith, or we're pulling the trigger, would you do it? Would you deny the faith? Think about that. Think about that, because it's happening everywhere. It's happening right now in many ways, but it's subtle, people. Let me give you some examples. It may come to you in your belief that let's say your son or your daughter doesn't believe, okay? And you can't figure out a way to get them to believe or understand or get out of what they're getting into, because you see big trouble. They're getting in trouble. They're going to jail. They're hurting people. They're little demons, man. You can see they're demonic. You know, you can see it. They're turning really dark. They didn't used to be this way. All of a sudden, maybe it's their friends. Maybe it's this. Maybe it's that. Well, maybe it is. But maybe it's got something to do with you too. Okay. Maybe you don't show that you have no fear. Maybe you don't show that you're walking free. It's like I get the questions. How can I walk? How do you walk around so free that people hate me because I guess I exude freedom? Well, I don't know. I got a free spirit, man. I ain't afraid of dying. I know, you know what? I know I'm going to die at some time. I'm not trying to get morbid, people, but I'm telling you, I'm not going to live forever. So what is it? You want to have the choice on how to die so that it eases your mind about it? Is that, what would it be? I mean, you don't never know. You can walk out your door and fall and break your neck. You understand? But you can't live in fear to where you adjust your life to it. Do you understand? You do what you want to do. Go on and do what you want to do. Now, I ain't talking about be like me. You know, I've always walked the edge, man. I pushed the envelope. I've pushed the envelope most of my life, you know, but I do what I do, but I walk in freedom, man. My mind is, I walk in freedom. It don't matter where I'm at. I'm free. It doesn't matter if they put me in a cage, if they, whatever it is. I've been in many circumstances, that have been controlled, and, whatever. I'm still free, man. I still do what I do. You know what I mean? And I transmute that energy. I turn it into a positive. You hear me? I turn it into a positive. There's many ways to do it. And I'm not going to allow that to rule my life. And that is the main point, I believe. I won't allow darkness to rule my life, that it puts me in fear, and I have to watch everything I do. Everything I do, I got to watch everything I do, everything I say. Come on already. You know what I'm saying? It don't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense to me. I don't know what it is, but I try to explain it to people, but I don't think they understand. Just release yourself. Release yourself from all this control. You got so much control in you, man. I'm afraid to lose my job. I'm afraid, how many jobs I've gone through? Man, I've had this hair. It used to be black and down past my butt. I held a corporate position for, I don't know, I forgot how many years. I think 15, almost 20 years. Held a corporate position. I was the only long hair in the whole, corporation, man. It didn't stop me, That didn't stop me. I'm afraid to lose my job because of my hair. I got to cut my hair. I ain't got to do that. My intelligence, man, my production speaks for me. What I do speaks for me. My intellect, my work ethics, everything that speaks for me. Not what I look like. You understand? Not what I look like. If people don't like what I look like, it's just a job, baby. I'll go get another one. You know what I mean? It's not an issue I'm going to allow to control me. Okay. And a lot of people do. And then once you get that job, you're stuck, man. You're stuck. You can't do this. You can't do that. You know how many marriages break up because, the husband's doing nothing but working, you know? That's all he does. He don't have time for intimacy with his wife. He don't have time for intimacy with his children. They just know him as dad, and oh, I might see him maybe for about an hour today, and then he's got to go. He's constant in and out. You know, wife working too, the husband working too, and you guys just pass each other. You say, "Hey, man," little kiss on the forehead and go. If I ever kissed my wife on the forehead, she'd divorce me. You know what I mean? We didn't believe in that. It's just that to me that means nothing to me. I mean, you can play around and stuff like that. I'm not saying that. There's times you do it, but I'm talking about that's what you get. That's all you get. A good morning is the kiss on the forehead. A good night's a kiss on the forehead. Or a goodbye is a kiss on the forehead. It's just it's lack of intimacy, man. And you wonder why there's a disconnect. So I don't know. Same with the kids. You know what I mean? They need that. They need that connection. But it's that fear that people have that controls all that. So I don't believe in letting that happen to me. And I never have. It's I can't walk in that. I can't live in that. And I don't know how to explain it to people to break them loose of it. I mean, you just got to stop. I mean, stop being scared of everything. If you make some wrong move, then I can't believe this way because God's going to punish me, or I can't believe this way, or because Jesus is going to punish me, or I can't believe this way because Buddha will punish me, or whatever it is, Allah, or whoever. I have to believe this way. No, you don't. No, you don't. You know, me, I am my own. I don't even like the word religion. I am my own belief. I never call myself a Christian. I call myself, I'm a believer. And that's because I got my belief. My belief is within me. My belief is within me because Jesus, the Christ that I believe in, lives in me. He says it in his word, and I believe in his word. Okay? Yeah, there's a lot of things that have been messed around through the years and this and that, but I look in depth. I look in depth on it. It don't control me like that. Okay? It doesn't control me like that. I have my belief. I go by the Spirit. It's not necessary for me to have a Bible. Do you understand me? I have many. I have plenty, and I like them. I like the word, and I like reading. Once in a while, I like to get in it. It's not a steady thing. I have to just beat it in me all the time. I'm not a fanatic. Inside is where I have it. My answers are inside. My prayers go within because that's where my belief is. My Lord is my spirit. My spirit. He says, I'll live within you. Open the door. Why would he say that if that's not the case? You know what I mean? I am the church. I'm his bride. You know what I'm saying? He calls the church his bride, so I'm his bride. I don't have to have a group of people. I can walk alone, as a matter of fact, and still have it. You understand me? If who I'm with doesn't believe, that's on them. I can't force it on anybody. Okay? But they can't force it out of me either. Do you understand me? I've played in the dark side. I know my enemy. I know the dark side very well. So I know what I'm battling, and I know what I'm going against, and I know what can't come against me because they can't touch me. Do you hear what I'm saying? As long as I say so. As long as I say so, that's it. I am the one in command. I am the one in control. Okay? I control. Why? Because I refer to the spirit within me, and the spirit tells me, okay, you are in control because I am. It's called free will. Okay? Even the spirit can't make me do what I don't want to do because I can deny it if I want to. I can go against it if I want to. I'll pay for it. then I'll pay for it. Okay? Because I'm going against myself. Does that make sense? it's it's too easy for me to see. I don't know. Maybe maybe it's just me, but it's too easy for me. It's so plain to me. It's so plain and simple. But people want to make it so complicated. And I got a video coming up. I'm going to explain something in depth on that complexity, because the complexity is in the simplicity. Remember, I said this because I'm going to make this video. I'm waiting for my board to come in. I got to do it on a board. I've got to illustrate. I'm going to make an illustration. You're going to love it. You're going to love it. It's going to make a lot of sense, and it's so simple. Okay, the complexity that we deal with. Okay, and we deal with out here, and the complexity of the world, and the complexity in here. This complexity is complexity. Everything's complicated. It's so, and we say, there's a lot of people say, oh no, it's simple. It's simple. I believe, and that's it. You know what? I can put you in one situation. I guarantee you, your belief will shake. I guarantee you. Most of them, not all, I'm saying, but I guarantee most of them, their belief will shake like this, man. One situation that I've been in, just one, okay, that put your belief like this, boy. And I guarantee you, you're gonna shift a little bit, okay? So what's that say for your belief? You know what I mean? So you got to be real with it, man. And the only thing that makes you real is that free spirit. And if you can't free your spirit, I don't know, people. I think that's what the problem is. You don't have a free spirit. And that free spirit, uh, it scares people, because you have to think on your own, man. You can't be taking all these people's advices and everything. You got to think on your own, make your own decision, and stand with it. I've made a lot of wrong decisions, but I stand with it because I work my way out of it. I'm going to work my way out of it. Okay, it didn't go quite right, and I'm going to work my way out of it. I'm not going to go, oh man, that's it. I'm no good. I'm no good. Never mind. I give up. That's not going to happen, man. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. I may go down, but I get up, baby. I ain't going to lay down and stay down. It's not going to happen. As long as I can breathe, as long as I got breath. You hear me? Because that spirit within me is stronger than anything that's out here. Anything is stronger. And I stand with that. And I stand behind it. But you got to back that belief. You got to back that belief. You got to back it. And you got to stand with it. I could put it in other ways, but I'm trying to keep this clean. You know what I mean? You got to have the... You got to have the gonads. You got to have the... How can I put it? You got to have the gonads to stand, and the derriere, the backside, to back it, to back the gonads. You understand? If you're going to stand with them and throw them up, then you're going to have to stand with it. You understand? And don't worry about your flesh. What's going to happen is going to happen. You know what I mean? Like I said, you walk out the door and fall and break your neck. What? So what are you going to do? Stay inside? Think about that. Think about, as soon as you walk out the door, you're going to fall and break your neck. How many people are going to think about that and stay inside? No, I ain't going out. Become what do you call it? Get that phobia. You hear what I'm saying? It's that ridiculous, though. And you can't go out there. There's people that won't approach people. You become a social, what do they call it? Sociably inept, man. Because you're scared of approaching people. You don't know, man. That guy looks mean. You know how many people have said that about me, man? They come up, they've talked to me for a while. Finally, they break, and somehow they get to talking to me. Well, man, I thought, man, you're all right. I thought you were mean. I asked him why, because you look mean. Why do I look? I don't see how I look mean. You know what I mean? It's just your perception. You know, if your perception. I'm a loyal dog, man. I become your friend, man. I'm loyal as heck, man. I'm a loyal dog. I'll put up my life. I'll stand. I'll protect you. You know what I'm saying? That's how I am. And people don't do that. You know, it's like bikers. You see bikers, you know, and people are afraid of bikers. They see the leather. I guess the leather, man, I do leather for a living. You know what I mean? They see that, you know, and the biker, you break down on the road, for example, you know, a biker's going to be the first guy that stops. Or they see you in trouble over there, having trouble, having a confrontation with somebody. A biker's going to be the first one that there's bikers around. They're going to be the first one to help you. You know, but you won't approach them to, you know, say, hey, what's going on? If they come around, oh, well, you move the kids and everything, scoot them over, get the kids away. Okay, stand over here, get over here. You know, I've had it done. I get my leathers on, you know. Sometimes I don't even have to have my leathers on. Yeah, I can walk in my pajamas into a biker bar, for example, and they all know I'm a biker. Why? You think it's because of my hair? No, it's what you put out. It's that spirit, man. It's that spirit. They're all free spirits. You know, most of them, you know, they're all free spirits, man. You know what I'm saying? They don't walk in fear. They exude fear because they don't walk in fear. Maybe that's what it is with me. You know, people are afraid to approach me. A lot of people because I exude fear because I don't walk in fear. You know what I'm saying? They're the ones that are in fear, not me. But I don't put out fear. You know, I don't intentionally put out fear. So what do you think it is? You know, it's that free spirit. And I guess no matter what I do to him, he's going to be scary to some people. I put him up because the other one, the red one, you know, everybody's talking about how scary he looked. Well, he's scary looking. He's still scary looking because he is. He can be. He's the scariest thing you'll ever face. That's the spirit of God. That's the scariest thing you'll ever face. Go against it. Watch. And I mean, go against it, not, you know, I'm talking about go against it like hurting people in the name of God. Go do that. What, you know, you're so strong. You're not such a coward. I know all these people doing all this black magic and all these warlocks and witches and everything that are attacking me, you know, because I tell the truth and I expose them. They don't come around me. They'll send their little minions, you know, and they're supposed to what? They're supposed to work with the boss, the boss of darkness, you know, the great one of darkness. That sucker's my servant. He's my servant. If I deem it so, if I say so, he's my servant. He's lower. He's below me. He's subordinate to me. Why? Because I walk with the light. I'm the light, man. I got the spirit of God. I'm the spirit of the Almighty, and it's within me. I walk it. I'm the light, baby. That's why they don't like it. They're in the dark. They don't like it. I'm around. I speak the truth. I'll expose them right there. What are you gonna do? Kill me? And then what? You think you're getting rid of the spirit? Go ahead. Do it to yourself, fool. You know what I mean? It's not gonna control me, is my point, people. That fear that I'm talking about, you know? I've walked with them, man. I've been right in the middle of them warlocks and witches and all this other stuff, man. They're trying to induct me, trying to teach me this stuff and teach me that stuff. Yeah, teach me. I want to know it. You know, thinking they're inducting me. I'm never going to sign off on none of that. You know what I mean? I don't know. I don't know. It comes simple for me. I guess it's just me. I don't know. I know there's more out there because I know a lot of people, that are free spirited and think like me. I mean, but there's a lot. I'm trying to help people that are out there. They become victims, man. People are making themselves victims by walking in fear of everybody. I know people that get to know me, and after a while, it's like, hey, man, you're all right. You're not anything like I thought you were. Where'd that thought come from? Where'd that thought come from? You think there's something not so holy about you? You're supposed to be a person of God, you know, but maybe there's something not so holy about you. You know what I mean? Maybe there's something not so godly about you because where's that thought coming from? Aren't you supposed to love me? I'm your neighbor. Aren't you supposed to love your neighbor like yourself? You know what I mean? There's people, I don't hate people. You understand? I don't hate. Okay. I hate what's in them, but I don't hate the person. I hate what's in them because I see it. And that's what I hate. And I won't deal with it. And, I won't deal with it. I tell it straight up like it is. I don't take no bullshit. I'll put it that way. I don't take no bullshit, you know, and I don't bullshit. And if my friends and I get together, we bullshit, but we both know we're bullshitting. You know what I'm saying? But that's different. But I don't sit there and meticulously, you know, do that to manipulate people. I could, but I don't. You know, some deserve it. Tell you the truth. And some need a little bit of manipulating to make them go the right way. But you got to be careful with that. But some are trying hard, but they got that decision had to been made already, if that makes any sense. So anyway, I just wanted to put that out, and because I know a lot of good people that walk in fear, and it's hard for me to break the ice and tell them, quit walking around so scared, man. You know, and it's hard for me to do that because they go on the defensive, man. Right away they go on the defensive. It's like, yeah, you know, and I don't want to do that because it turns negative, and I don't want to do that. And so it's hard to figure out how to help them, because they're coming to me and asking me for help, but I gotta put on the kid gloves, on a lot of people, which I do a lot, but sometimes it's got to come at them. It got to come at you hard, people, for it to get there. To ring the bell. You know what I mean. Otherwise, it don't ring the bell. Oh, you'll hear it, but it just goes out the other side because you'll forget all about it down the road. It doesn't have impact. So anyway, I'll probably do some more videos on it. Bring out some more information. This is just kind of an initial thing, you know. So hopefully, I'd like to get here before too long. I'd like to get my call-ins set up to where we got call-ins, and that'd be great. And I'll have help. I'll have other people that have been through similar things with me that they can, answer questions and stuff. That way, I'm not the only one answering questions, and people can see I'm not the only one, saying this stuff. So, uh, you collective out there, watch yourselves, man. They're turning up the heat on attacking us. So you guys watch it. You hear me? Um, I just got certain information on certain things, and them higher ups and people higher up, they're putting things together where we're making too much of an impact, and but that's okay. Like I say, don't walk in fear because what's in us is greater than anything that's out here. You just got to stand strong with it, and it'll protect you. Is that your protection? Because those things, they'll come at you in many funny ways, and they'll send people into your realm, man. They'll send people into your realm. So be careful of who's coming in, strangers and stuff like that with smiling faces. Just be careful. Use your intuition and your discernment. Build your discernment up so that you see that. And that goes for all you folks out there. You know, keep your eyes open. Be aware. Be aware of the situations you're going into. Don't just tiptoe through the tulips every day. You know what I mean? If you're going to tiptoe, but be aware of what's around you. You know, because that's what they want. They want people that are asleep. You hear me? People that are asleep, that are not fully awake. They're after you. Okay? They want to induct you or make you a victim. Okay? So you stay strong out there. All right? And go figure out what this is. All right? A lot of you know what it is. I'll get better at it. Have a good day.